Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and you know what time it is? It is 9 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning, and it is time for Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the steps, discuss the strategies, everything that you need to know to be more effective at sales. And Mark, we have a interesting show this morning. What is on tap?
This is a topic that I'm struggling with, okay, because you know my feelings on it. Okay, I'm going to read it. Recession, no recession. How do you capitalize on a shifting marketplace? Okay, I said that word. I don't normally say that, but only because I meant to for the title. So anyway, hey, we got a great question from Matt, who is in the housing industry. Got a great book. Already had a chance to check it out. That's great, and a lightning round. So we're going to talk really about how do you deal with the next potentially 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Who knows? But that's what we got on tap.
Yeah, I thought this show would be a little bit fun because for those of you who aren't lucky enough to know Mark really well, he is our resident optimist. And no matter the challenge in front of you, he always sees the glass half full. And he's had some challenges these last couple of weeks, and we've got some challenges in front of us. And what I think is you're going to find Mark and I categorize things differently, but approach them exactly the same. But we want you to weigh in and talk about what you see coming in the marketplace. And the one thing I think we can all agree on is that no matter what the future holds, our clients need us, and there's plenty of time to be successful and plenty of opportunity. So, Mark, I'll hit the video and we will rock and roll.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
This is Sales Logic. Again, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss everything that you want to know. Mark, we already have a big group coming in this morning. We've got Germany, we've got India, we've got our friend Skip joining us this morning, this afternoon, wherever time it is, wherever you are in the world. But, we always start the show with a question from you, the audience. So if you ever want to be a part of Sales Logic, we would love it. Send a question to saleslogicpodcast.com. We have a hot topic, talk about a book, and because we want you to get return on investment, we leave you with a lightning round. So, Mark, before I turn it over to you, I want to encourage the audience to really engage in this show because this is a good discussion. So, Mark, what's on tap for today?
Well, the discussion is very good because we're talking about that R word. Okay, see, now I will refer it through the show as the R word. You'll refer to it as recession.
Yes.
We're talking about, recession, no recession. And the question I think is spot on because it comes from Matt in Wilmington, Delaware. He says, I lead a sales team that sells into the housing market. We are on the front lines of a downturning economy. As a leader, what do I do? Be transparent with my team and have them think I'm a Debbie Downer, or just tell them we are not participating? What's the best course of action to keep my team motivated, committed, and selling? This is going to be great.
So I am a big believer that you need to be gut-wrenchingly honest with the team. Honest as to what you think and feel. I tend to think of myself as a realist. And a realist doesn't take the optimistic view, doesn't take the pessimistic view, but deals with what is in front of them. And I think we're in recession right now here in the United States. We just had our second quarter of economic downturn. Technically, that's the definition. But I think you need to not leave it there. Like, the funny thing about a recession is your customers actually need you more in economic downturn than they needed you in good economic times. So the very fact that you are dealing with tough economic times doesn't mean that you have to be a Debbie Downer with a team. I just don't want you to stand up there and act like nothing's going on, because these people are feeling it at the gas pump. They're feeling it in their own paychecks. They're feeling it. And there's something about empathy and understanding and then rallying the troops to say, we're going to take care of our customers.
Okay, let's cut to the chase. First of all, Matt, you got to be real with your team. But I'll tell you what, choose not to participate. That's how I deal with the R word. Okay, now, before you get upset at me, Mayor, he's in the housing industry. I know it's going to go through a downturn. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. Here's the situation, though. For you, Matt, and for anybody else in an industry that's going, could be going sideways. And that's about as negative as I ever get. Here's the situation. There are still opportunities out there because the valleys are never as low as you think they are, and the mountaintops are never as high as you think they are. And right now, more than ever, you have a responsibility to be listening to your customers and bringing them insights. Yes, the technical numbers state that we in the US are in a recession. That's the technical numbers. However, we've just come out of 2 years of totally abnormal everything because of COVID and everything. So I don't know if those technical numbers that we tend to rely on, GDP, are really accurate because we're still in a very tight employment situation. So Matt, look at the positive aspects that you're dealing into. Look at the positive aspects. You have builders that you're probably dealing with that may not make it through. It's okay, but you know what? The sun's still going to come up in the morning. And for your people, make sure that you're spending time focusing on the opportunities. Now more than ever, focus on the opportunities. Don't focus on, oh, we lost another one. Oh, this went down. Because again, your people will take to the street the attitude you reflect to them.
Yeah. Also, you need to recognize that the people on your team need to be led differently. Mark chooses not to participate. Eternal optimist. So with him, I don't have to do much motivating. I mean, he's like, I'm not participating. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's great. Other people on the team may really be fearful. And it's okay that they have different approaches to what's happening in the marketplace. People think differently, they feel differently. So your job as a leader is to help them. What I don't want you to do is if you are somebody who doesn't believe that recession makes a difference, understand that other people do. And validating people's feelings and being empathetic to their feelings is very important. There's a great term that the US military uses called embrace the suck. And I love that term because their feeling is, it comes from the Stockholm theory and the survivors of the prison camps in Vietnam, that it wasn't the pessimists that survived. It wasn't the optimists, but those who said, this is my situation and my situation sucks. But how can I work with the situation in front of me and still survive and thrive through it? And that's when your industry takes a dip, and every industry does. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about studying history, right? You don't get to ride this huge wave of success forever. Anybody who's been in the housing market for the last 20 or 30 years is just going like this right now. They got to ride the wave up. Now they ride the wave down. I mean, they're just used to it, and they know this is part of it. But understand that the team that you're leading may have different needs, and be okay with that. You may have young members of the team that have never really ridden a downturn. Help them through it.
That is so key. I think younger people who have never gone through a downturn in the stock market, gone through an economic downturn, they don't know how to respond. So they're responding to what they hear around them. They're responding to the news. And those who have been around, I was just with some mortgage people the other day, and I was asking them, hey, what's the outlook? And they said, well, we're going to lose a lot of people. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But it's creating opportunities for those that can keep a sane head on their shoulders. Now, what does this mean? This means, as Matt, you, the leader, and I tell this to everybody, you got to be mindful I pay attention to the global news. I pay attention to the national news, but only from an information. Okay, this is what other people might be thinking. I zero in on my world locally. And this is what you have to do. Because again, Matt, you've got people, just as Mayor said, some people are reacting one way and some people are reacting one way. This is where leading a team for you, Matt, this is where you make your money. This is where you make your money, because you're going to find yourself allocating your time and your mental resources vastly different than you did 6 months ago. And that's okay, because you got to know how to zero in. Because you're right, a person like me, you're probably not going to spend much time with, but there are going to be others that you are going to double and triple down on. And that's the same thing with our customers, because again, you want to be mindful as we kind of shift to, how do you capitalize on a shifting marketplace? The last thing you want to do is walk into a customer and tell them how bad things are. Oh, wow, I can't believe. No, everybody sees it if they choose to participate. Your objective is to bring them optimism. Your objective is to bring them solutions. Your objective is to bring them ideas to help them succeed. This is why Mayor and I, when we started off the show, now more than ever, we in the sales community are needed more than ever.
Yeah, I agree. I love this post from one of our Facebook clients here is what you focus on will grow. That's exactly true. What you focus on expands. At the same time, I'm a big believer you can't ignore it. I remember back in 2008, my husband was in practice, and a lot of his patients were in the real estate market, and the bottom fell out. I mean, it fell out hard. And I remember he had this line he would say to everybody: just because the bottom fell out, it didn't mean that your teeth didn't break or a filling didn't need done or something like that. And I would be in his office and I would hear him say to people, just don't worry about this. We're in this together. We'll get through this together. So Rob looked at probably a third of his patient base was in the real estate market. It was not a time when Rob was going to make money. It was a time when Rob was going to build the relationships that would grow his practice long term. So he simply charged, he did a lot of people at cost. He did what needed to be done to help his patients out. So when things did turn around, they would be with him long term. And you're in that market too. Like you can't ignore the fact that some markets are going to get hit really, really hard. Like I think about areas of the country that are in like the oil and gas market, or if you're in Florida right now and you're in some of those markets that, where the hurricane just hit, focus on the relationship and focus on the long game, because you can't show up and go, well, this hurricane just didn't exist, I'm just not going to participate. It did. And those communities are wiped out right now, but they will come back. And ask yourself, how can I help people to get through it? And with that, business goes in waves.
Spot on. Never become focused on a singular belief. This is where people get into trouble. Last night, my wife and I were out to dinner with some friends, and it's amazing. This gentleman's views. I mean, it's just dark, doom, gloom, everything. And there's another world out there. And he and I were looking at the same thing with totally different outcomes. Now, the reason I say this is because if you go back to 2009, we had a difficult time, economic period, and the market was falling apart, and people said, the market's never going to come back. And then it came back better than ever. Time and time again, talk to people who were around during World War II, and there were some dark days in World War II. And yet out of that came the greatest economic boom of the late 40s and the 50s and into the 60s that we've ever seen as a nation. So never look at, it's negative today. But that's what happens when we allow ourselves to get consumed with a singular viewpoint. Think long-term. You raised it, Mayor. Think long-term. The sun will still come up in the morning and every morning thereafter.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that, Mark, I'm going to speak for you, that we want people to take from this show today is the fact that things are going on in the marketplace. I mean, we cannot ignore that. The economy is shifting. You need to realize that now is your time to put your foot on the gas rather than off of it. Is that you're going to have customers that are well positioned to move through this in a healthy way. You're going to have customers that are not. And I think this is really the time. I think in good economic times, we're really order takers. People are just calling us going, I got fat in the budget. Here's some stuff I need to buy. Now they're definitely going to spend money. They just need to make sure that they're spending it on the right things with the right people for the right solutions. So the more you understand what's going on in the market, the more ideas you have to help them be successful and navigate it. And just like with my husband's patients, not everybody's going to be okay. I mean, some people are going to struggle economically given the impact to their industry, but they'll only struggle for a little while. It will come back.
Oh, this whole thing, you got to think long term. You've got to. Now, our great friend Mark Bregman brings up a great point. Business leaders should also have contingency plans. Yes, in good times and bad times, you need contingency plans. I've seen many companies get into trouble in good times because they don't have contingency plans, and then they go and do really stupid stuff. So this is a fundamental basic of business. But here's something that you have to keep in mind. How can I help my customers power through difficult situations? Two things you can do. One, keep them focused on where they can create the best return for their investment right now, today. What does that mean? That means as you go into sell, you need to be saying, how am I going to help this? How can I position my value proposition to allow this customer, whether it be B2B or B2C, to receive a return on their investment immediately, within the quarter, within the year at the most? And it's got to help them solve an immediate issue. We've talked about this before. Customers are only making decisions on their top one or two problems. Well, guess what? This is bringing it out even more. You got to zero in, which means you've got to be listening to the customer. But the customer is only going to take the time to talk to you if they see you as a source of solution. If they see you as a Debbie Downer, they're going to throw you out. This is why you got to be extremely careful on the mindset you have with every one of your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Michelle makes a great point. Understanding your clients and providing empathy with hope and optimism will help. I love Mark's thought here about having a contingency plan. And Mark, you are so right, because it's not too late. I mean, I realize that we're starting to move into recession, but it doesn't mean you can't get your team together right now and have a contingency plan. Mark, John has posed another great question. I love John because he always comes on here and says, boy, I'm going to maximize my time and ask Mayor and Mark a good question. What can marketing be doing differently to help sales? What a great question, John.
That's an absolutely terrific question. And you got to look at your marketing copy. You got to look at it. And are you painting just a beautiful picture? Or are you giving them solutions? More than ever right now, you have to be giving your customers, in all your communication, absolute solutions as to how they can make a difference, how they can make an impact right now. Bring it home, bring it local, bring it to the solution that they can run with right now. This is not the time to sit there and say, I want to start creating this unbelievable world of this is what the industry is going to look like 5 or 10 years from now. Save that for somebody else. Zero in on what's going to help them right now.
John, I love this question, and I'm so glad that you asked it. First of all, marketing needs to be thinking to themselves, how can I help sales right now? The second is sit down and have a meeting with sales and pull out of sales what they think is going on with customers right now. What are customers telling them? Like, interview the sales team to get at the heart of the problem as to how the industry they're selling into is shifting, and then create the marketing. Create the marketing around that. What people will pay for right now, and the best way that you grow in the middle of a recession is you're solving the right problem. And so what has happened in the last 30 days is the problem is shifting. is that what people had as a problem before the economy started to shift and the problem they have now is different. So really get connected to the sales team. Salespeople are like a builder with a hammer and a nail. They just see a nail and they hit it. They're just out doing the same sales conversation they have had all the time and they're not shifting it. So if you interview them and say, tell me the last conversation you had with customers. If you had to say one thing that's shifting in the marketplace, what would you say is shifting? Pull out of them what they see going on, and then you can change your copy and your languaging. Great question.
Yeah, and when you create that copy, create it with case studies, create it with specific examples, because again, I love Debbie. It's a source of solution, and trust is the game changer. You're right. Customers have to trust their salespeople more than ever right now. And marketing, this is where you play a role, because if you can help provide salespeople with case studies, specific examples that customers can relate to, again, this is how you create trust, because you have to make sure also from a sales standpoint that you are very much subscribing to the approach of land and expand. What do I mean by that? This is not the time to be coming in and saying, we're going to create this gigantic, unbelievable proposal. It's going to cost you money that goes beyond anything you've ever seen before. No, those days are out. You come in and you land. You sell them one specific thing. You land and you continue to demonstrate trust, and then you expand from there. So it's a little bit of a difference in terms of your sales approach, but there's plenty of business out there. There's a lot of business out there. And those who approach it with the right attitude are going to score on it. Hey, time continues to move along. We had a great audience today.
Really, and quite an international audience. We've gone all over the world this morning,
which tells us something. This is not a local issue. This is a global issue.
Absolutely.
But going back to what we talked about earlier, you still respond to it locally. You don't respond to it globally. Mayor, what's our book? I wasn't aware of this book, but I did find that both authors live in Dallas. So guess what? Guess who I'm going to make sure I'm having lunch with in the next couple of weeks?
Good for you. So this morning catches me in Las Vegas, and I'm trying to do 5 days on the road and just to carry on, so I don't have the book with me. But it's called The Winning Playbook: Strategies for Life on and Off the Field. And the reason I know the book is I spoke at an event last weekend in Denver, Colorado, and this book was there for the group. I spoke to this amazing franchise organization called Skyhawks. They teach, they do coaching and for kids like 2 to 14. And it's really about life skills. And so it's a book that really focuses on the strategies you need to be successful on the field, but as well as off the field. I'm a big sports nuts. I'm kind of mediocre at everything, every sport I do, but I do pretty much can play almost any sport. And I'm a big believer that, when you head in towards tough economic times, it's those foundational skills that are going to help you be successful that are going to carry you through right now.
Okay, we're going to have to edit this audio because you said something that you're mediocre at all sports. Excuse me. Except in golf and tennis, where you rock. So let me just say this. If Mayor ever says, hey, you want to play some tennis and put some money on the line? Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. So yeah. Anyway, but hey, see that book right there. This is the whole thing. What do you choose to fill your mind with? What do you choose to fill your mind with? And that absolutely impacts significantly how you think and how you respond to people. So hey, it's a book I'm going to grab. And like I said, I'm going to be reaching out to both those authors. I'm going to be doing lunch with them. Boy, this audience just continues to build. We got more countries chiming in, more continents chiming in. So hey, lightning round. Are you ready?
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing about the book. It's an easy read. We'll put it in the show notes. It's not a very thick book. My husband and I were at dinner the other night talking about Dale Carnegie, and we were talking about, Rob said, what's your favorite Dale Carnegie book? And I said, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I just want to make the comment that I love that book because it was written in the 1930s and still relevant today. This is that type of book. If you want to make it through an economic shift, downturn, whatever the heck we're calling it today, you need those foundational skills. I think that's important. All right, lightning round.
Okay, so we should say, Matt, buy that book for your sales team, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, lightning round. Top 10 things you need to do to prepare for a shifting marketplace. Go.
Number one, get your head right around it. Realize that the marketplace may be shifting, but you are of value, extreme value, and your customers need you now more than ever.
I just about spilled a cup of coffee. Okay. Hey, watch what you're reading. Take this book, The Winning Playbook, Strategies for Life and on and off the field. Think about reading it yourself, and then think about giving it to some of your customers.
Yeah, make a list of customers you really need to reach out to, those that are going to be impacted the most, and make sure you're making those sales calls first.
This is the time to sit there and say there may be some customers that you're going to cut from your list. You know, the Debbie Downers, you just cut them from your list. You don't respond to them. You don't call them any more than you absolutely have to.
Yeah, think about what you're going to do to double your activity. Decision making and the number of people involved in a decision, all of that's going to slow down. That's just natural. I mean, don't get upset about it. There's just more thought needs to be put into it. So you need to increase your activity, the number of sales calls and things that you're making.
Make your CTA, your calls to action, simple. Keep them simple for customers to respond to. Why? Because they're becoming overwhelmed. You don't want to be the thing that is too complicated for them to deal with.
Yeah, focus on the long game. Don't worry about making money in the next, couple of months or the next, year or so. Focus on what you need to do to build the relationships so that when things start to turn around again, people stay with you.
Every day, celebrate the success that you have. You may not have been able to accomplish much, but there's probably something there, maybe one phone call that went well. End the day celebrating something to mentally prepare you for the next day.
I'm going to steal Mark's here because it's such a good one. Oh, gosh, people need to pay attention to what Mark Bregman is saying here right now. Make sure your forecasts are realistic. I mean, if you're leading a sales team, don't double their goal right now. Make it realistic, something they can hit and they can do. Focus on the long game.
I'm going to run with that even further. You as an individual, set yourself small goals that you can achieve. That goal may be just to make X number of phone calls or have X number of meetings or get X number of proposals. Set small goals that you can achieve. Why? Because it changes your level of motivation. When it changes your level of motivation, it is amazing at how much more you will do.
Yeah. Focus on your competition's customers, because your competition is going to pull back. Salespeople notoriously get fearful in the middle. They either get fearful or they get too aggressive in the middle of a recession. So this is a great time for you to pull people over into your world from your competition.
Get even more disciplined with your time. You have to become very routine focused in difficult times. Otherwise, your mind starts to take control and you go into wonky land. Focus your time, schedule everything on your calendar.
Yeah. Question your expenses. Really think about, if, when you go out on a sales call, do I have to take people, to lunch? Could we just sit down and have a conversation over a cup of coffee? As much as you're thinking about what you need to do to hit your numbers, realistically relook at your expenses. And that means, kind of to Mark's point with your time, no more howdy doody calls. And what I mean by howdy doody call, if it isn't effective, and a sales call is the most expensive thing you will do, to literally leave your office, engage with somebody, even if it's on Zoom, it's not bringing any return on investment. So if it isn't a high and good use of your time, rethink it.
Hey, I'll share one more, you share one more, and we'll close it down. Watch and be careful of the people you surround yourself with. Who are the influencers in your life? Who are the people you associate with most? Make sure they're the positive people. If you got negative Nellies around you, you got to cut them loose.
Yeah. Trust the journey is the last thing I'm going to say. This too will pass. So this is one of these times where you just do what's in front of you and don't worry about everything else. One of the biggest things that I'm learning from economists right now is that nobody has a flipping clue what the marketplace is going to do. So trust the journey. Just do what you can control and forget about the rest.
And that means you continue to listen to Sales Logic each week.
Exactly.
So, hey, with that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show, because it's how we grow when you grow. Hey, I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
I got to say, I love this audience this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Really robust conversation, and look forward to diving into these topics we all need to be successful in the next couple of months. Please remember, if you have a question, reach out to saleslogicpodcast.com. We'll see you right back here next week, 9 a.m. Eastern.